Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, we're going to begin in just about 30 seconds or so. The sisters in the ladies area, you are more than welcome to come in the front. We have space for you, inshallah. And if everybody can begin taking their seats, it's going to be a wonderful presentation, inshallah, today. So in about 30 seconds, we're going to begin, inshallah. Aribi, can you time me? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم به نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Y'all gotta get excited. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we're in a masjid and the microphone is working. Takbir. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. So much excitement should be around and surrounding us, alhamdulillah. Tonight we have an amazing program. A program that is, something that should be very dear to every single Muslim brother and sister. It is a program that will outline ways in which the Muslim community can get involved in the jail system that we have here in the United States, which has many, many issues and needs very much support and needs very many resources. And it is truly, wallahi, neglected, right? And this is something that every single one of us should be championing. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-mu'minu lil-mu'minina kal-bunyan, that a believer to a believer is like a brick to a wall. We're supposed to support one another, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, he received revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? He received direct guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in that revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He called the believers brothers and sisters. He called the believers brothers and sisters. And one of the reasons that this analogy is used, right? Because no matter how close I am to my friends, when my brother or my sister is in need, I'm going to give many more resources for a much longer period of time than to anyone else. And interestingly, the Prophet ﷺ, when the Meccans, they migrated to Medina and they were with the Ansar, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he even allowed them to inherit from one another, right? And for those of us that have studied inheritance law in Islam, this is something that is, very different, because inheritance law is very, very specific in the religion of Islam. And this was done for a temporary period, but this is to demonstrate to what length we are supposed to serve one another, to what length we are supposed to support one another. And inshallah, I'm going to just, begin with a small story, inshallah, and I'm going to pass it over. I'm going to call up our beloved brother, Ejaz. He's my uncle, mashallah. And he's been in this work for many decades, mashallah. So there was a mouse. There was a mouse living in a farm, right? And for those of us who have dealt with mice, we don't want them, right? So similarly, the farmer, he brought a mouse trap. But along with this mouse was living a pigeon, a rooster, and a goat, all right? So a mouse, a pigeon, a rooster, and a goat. And so when the farmer brings the mouse trap, the mouse goes to the pigeon and he says, you need to help me, because he will either kill me or he will remove me. And I don't want to leave my home. Okay? So the pigeon says, it's a mouse trap, it has nothing to do with me. So you go on your way. So the mouse goes to the rooster and he says the same thing. He said, oh rooster, this trap will either be my demise or it will be the means by which I am removed from my home. So please help me. So the rooster, once again, in arrogance, he says, it has nothing to do with me. You go on your merry way. And so he goes to the goat and the same thing happens. So the farmer, he places the mouse trap and he puts a piece of cheese in it. And in the middle of the night, the farmer's wife, she hears the mouse trap go off. So she goes to the mouse trap, and she's touching it, and it's dark, she can't see. And what was really in the mouse trap was a venomous snake. So the venomous snake bites the farmer's wife, and she becomes gravely ill. So she goes to the Hakim, right? The traditional doctor, right? And the Hakim says, you need to have pigeon soup. So she comes home, the farmer comes home, and he slaughters the pigeon, and he makes the soup, and he gives it to his wife, right? And the wife, she drinks this soup and she gets better. So her neighbors, they gather together and they come over to see her, and they're like, we need to have a party. MashaAllah, you escaped death. It's a big deal. So what should we make? So the farmer goes and slaughters the chicken, and he makes a feast for the neighbors. And lo and behold, this is a popular family. So the people of the village, they come by to see the wife. And they say, MashaAllah, you escaped death. We need to have a party. So what shall we eat? Now comes the goat, right? The farmer comes in, slaughters the goat, and the whole village eats. Not the whole village, right? But a significant number of people, right? Many of us, we haven't seen a goat. We haven't seen how much it can feed, MashaAllah. So the moral of the story is that we have to help each other. Even if the plight may not be at our doorstep, right? Even if the plight may not be at our doorstep, it's only a matter of time until we are also dealing with it. And this is a selfish way of looking at it. This is a selfish way of looking at it. But from a spiritual perspective, from a religious perspective, again, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsi." That none of you will truly believe until you love for your brothers and sisters in humanity what you love for yourself. And who amongst us doesn't love stability? Who amongst us does not love freedom? Who amongst us does not love to grow in our capacities, right? Both physically, financially, spiritually, right? And so this is not a message just for Muslims, this is a message for all of humanity, and we should be champions of the cause of humanity because we are Muslims. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts from us. Allahumma ameen. Alhamdulillah. Brother Ijaz, I'd like to invite you, inshallah, to please give an amazing welcome to our amazing speakers.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Such a beautiful story. And I'm 73 now, been here 50 years. And I've been in trenches for the last couple of decades. I was in a dark alley when I started. But alhamdulillah, we have come a long way. We have so much support now, locally, statewide, and nationwide. And when I say support, we're connected. So inshallah, we won't have to go through the story that you talked about. But I believe if we were to protect our next generation, and I mean our grandchildren and their children, we've got to be out there with the people in the communities. No better way to do is to serve humanity, like Imam said. Prison da'wah and re-entry is a place that you will find peace. And I think if the Imams serve those only for sake of Allah, because there's no photo up there, doesn't have to do with money. But you don't go there to tell them what to do, we go there to serve them, to be with them, to listen to them, provide them an opportunity to self-reflect. I'm not supposed to be speaking, so I'll come back to the panels. So we have 3 members from Salam Reentry, and Salam Reentry is a collaborative effort. Our work is facilitation, just to facilitate people that are doing. So Salam is also diversity by design. I have my dear brother who brought me here, drove me all the way from Spring. I'm with her Daisy. She's been with me 7 years now. We've gone to Friday and Jummah in Harris County jails every Friday. And if you're not there, those people cannot make Friday prayer. So for the kafaya, if you're not there, and we need 20 people, it's only 2 of us. So beside Herdezi, I have 3 people here with 3 organizations. Ahmad Ganduz, Ahmad Ganduz there, this was my second brother with me who helped me in the jails when I was by myself after Imam Ali, and then Brother Herdezi came in. He is a chaplain now. He just did his master's in chaplaincy. He left to go be a chaplain in prisons, but he can't afford to because he has a family to support, but he will be going into chaplaincy, inshallah, when he can afford it. He also coordinates the Turkish community volunteers, prisons and jails. And Turkish sisters, and I want to challenge you all, you other sisters, young and old, they have been the most powerful in county jails. I am the Islamic coordinator for the sheriff, Harris County Jail. I'm on the sheriff's team as for the chaplaincy team, but I'm a volunteer. So Allah gave us a seat on the table that we didn't have then, and it is because of all the young folks who've been going there. I have the people in Salam who go there is mostly young and some old. Then I have Marvin Jefferson. He's from Masjid Ali Muhammad. He's imam, he's a co-founder, he's also imam there, but again, he's been in trenches, he goes to prisons. There's a difference. Prisons are under state and the jails are under sheriff. So he will talk about his experiences in the prisons. Then I have at the end Joseph Clark. He is founder of Halal House. And see, prison dawah, we just can't say prison dawah and forget it. You know, somebody takes shahada, or even if they don't take shahada, they need opportunity to self-reflect, to figure out for themselves, why are they there? We have to provide the environment. If any of you have any familiarity with Montessori, it's like a Montessori method. Prepare the environment, let them think. But the re-entry is a very big part of that, because most of them are coming back. So re-entry begins while they're incarcerated, and we do that through our Muslim Mentor Program. Joseph Clark and Brother Baki Sabur in Dallas are the 2 people that I go to when people call me from California, from other state, or from Texas. I connect them with them. Joseph Clark will be there, and I have to kind of hold him back at times not to do too much. So it is a teamwork. So now our team is really expanding, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to be here to get the word out. We only need volunteers. Our biggest need is volunteers, and our real need is people who are like me who don't need to work anymore, whose kids can take care of them. Because we are close to our graves. Any one of us can go, but the writing is on the wall. It's going to be too late if we leave the world without really doing anything. We need men, seniors, 20 hours a week to really do. So this work, we can do a lot. And with that, inshallah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, you'll be speaking first. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed. Thank you so much, Brother Aijaz. I want to talk about 7 years before a Turkish brother came to me and said, Ahmed, you are going to go every Friday to Harris County Jail. And he got permission from my boss, so I started going as a volunteer with Jummah prayer in Harris County Jail. But the first time I go there, I have seen Brother Aijaz. I was nervous because, I'm motivated to go to do prison dawah, but of course, the first time you go, I got scared. I didn't want to go inside the pods. So I waited in the chapel. Then the brothers started to come, huge brothers, and trying to hug you. It was interesting, but what I see is, and over the years, what I have seen, the sincerity of the brothers and they are welcoming, and they are in need of someone. They are waiting for someone coming from outside. We are coming outside because even they don't know what the weather is like. They are asking, brother, how was the weather today? They don't even see the outside. So they are in need of someone coming from outside and listening to them. Because, they are passing through a incarceration which is a trauma. They are losing everything. They are losing their freedom, not only freedom. They are losing many things at the same time which causes a trauma. So after many years, I still go to volunteer them. Then I went to prisons. Then I went to Harris County Juvenile. Then I go back to jail again. So what I say is, what we are doing inside, let me talk about it. We try to provide a service, because in prisons, here is the chaplain, he knows better than me. If a volunteer do not go to the service, then they cannot come together in prisons. Even it's similar in jails, I think. They cannot make a service. So there, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything about Islam. Because we have volunteers, their English is even not good. But I say, brother, it's not that important. Just go there. Your intention is very important. So once you go there, I personally prepare a presentation, just a small khutbah. Then we make a circle. That circle is very powerful. I'm a teacher today. We have a training about making a circle with the students, so that you can tell them how to learn, what are their problems. Actually, it's the same what we are doing. It's actually more powerful there, because those people, as I said, they lose a lot of things, and they need counseling. They need someone to listen them. So we have a circle. We talk a little bit, then they talk about their problems. They advise the other brothers, and they bring people. So we have an atmosphere inside. They bring their friends, because they're talking about Islam. They're bringing. So we have a lot of guests. We are going there to make a Islamic service, but there are guests also coming, and they feel the same atmosphere, which is good, and they want to be a Muslim, which is our motivation to go there. Every time, in Harris County Jail, there are 6 floors. So we can make Jummah in every floor every week. So the next time we come to the 6th floor after 6 weeks, because we don't have enough volunteers. So what we do, for example, I remember the 2nd floor, I go first time, we have a small chapel. 4 or 5 people comes, because they don't know someone is coming for a Friday prayer. So they tell other friends, and they talk about, when we collect them, they say, can I come also? Yeah, brother, come. Then next week, next time we come there, 10 people. The next time we come there, 20 people. Then we don't fit in the room. So it's a very good atmosphere. Even, as you know, if you are crowded, you pray on your back of your. That's what we do most of the time, because we don't fit in that room. We pray on the back of our brothers. So it's a very good atmosphere. Brothers came, they share their stories, when sometimes we go there, and then a brother says, brother, we have 2 friends, they want to be a Muslim, and then we celebrate it. He gets Shahada, and then we celebrate each other, and every brother give a very good advice about after what he's going to do after becoming a Muslim. So I mean, there are a lot of stories. I mean, I can talk for many minutes, but we have limited time. What I say as a result, we need volunteers because there are brothers waiting there, which is actually what we are doing. We are doing farz kifaya. Actually, when you're going somewhere where people becomes Muslim, it becomes farz ayn. So what we need to do, we have to show up there as Muslims. That I mean, there are brothers waiting for us. I mean, the only thing we need to do is we just show up there. We don't need to do anything. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Imam Marvin, and I'm actually a chaplain within the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And my position is known as the Area Muslim chaplain. And I'm the Area Muslim chaplain for Region 3, which is within this region. I go from Beaumont to the ones right down the street in Richmond, all the way to Galveston, up to Cleveland, Texas. But I want to talk to you a bit about what goes on in this system. Right now in the state of Texas, we have approximately 9,000 Muslims on paper. You have to declare what your faith is in order to attend certain services. And that's about 8 or 9% of the inmate population within Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Of those 9,000, I would say 85 to 90, maybe 95% became Muslims while incarcerated. The majority of the Muslims who are incarcerated had never come to a masjid like this. The only masjid that they know is the masjid inside the prison. The demographics, the majority are African Americans with a noticeable number of Hispanics, mainly Mexican Americans, and Caucasians that are coming in the ranks, alhamdulillah. But also there's a noticeable number of Muslims who immigrated to America and Muslim who are the children of immigrants who immigrated to America. They're popping up in prison right now. It's quite a few. And for anyone, as he was talking about the trauma that a person has to go through incarceration, for anyone it's a struggle and it's a cultural shock. But for those few brothers that are there who aren't American born or aren't of the 3 other groups that I mentioned, it's really a cultural shock. One of the brothers that was there on a unit, all he wanted me to do was to go to, I think it's Shoney's off of Hillcroft and 59, the restaurant. He said, please go there and get me an Arabic and Urdu newspaper. That's how much of a cultural shock that was. So you see that in someone we're talking, and the reason I'm saying this is because not only do we want you to come in to help, but we want you to help yourself out here. Don't think, brothers and sisters, old and young, that you're not eligible to go to the penitentiary. You can go to the penitentiary in America. That's one area America does not discriminate against, as sending you to the penitentiary and locking you up. There are guys in there, some are there for a short time, but many of the guys there, they've been there 20, 25, 30, 40 years. And the amount of room that we have right here is bigger, as far as length, it's way bigger than the cells. And the width is maybe 3 tables. I mean, yeah, the depth is maybe 3 tables. And sometimes you have, well, most of the time you have 2 people to live in that condition. And I really want you to understand that penitentiary life is not the glamour, especially for you youngsters that you see on TV. It's not, I'm doing time in correctional facilities. It's not Akon saying, I'm locked up. When you're in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, you're locked up for real. You're cut off from the world. So if you can imagine yourself or anyone else that you love being in a situation for 30 years and not having the freedom to say when you're going to get up in the morning and when you're going to move. Having to wait your turn seriously to go to commissary and get you some food. Having to wait your turn to go to the chow hall to eat your food. And then on top of that, if they lock the unit down, they're going to feed you, but they're going to bring you a brown bag with eggs, a boiled egg in it, I think some bread and some milk. That's reality. So the people that we're doing, they're in some bad situations. Many there, or the majority there, is because they did something. When you watch news and you see some of the guys doing things on the TV, committing crimes, they're going to TDCJ. But some of those people, through the efforts of the other inmates, some of those people are going to become Muslims. Some of those people are going to take their shahada. So what do we need to help the brothers? We need volunteers, but we also need books. We need books consistently. One of the things that angers me, and I hate to show it because I show it when I talk about it, is that we don't need brothers that are going to pop up in January, then you don't see them no more in September. We don't need sisters to go to a unit and tell the sisters what they can't do, and then go tell the chaplain it's not mandatory for the sister to come to Jummah when the only service they have is Jummah by law. We need people that are going to be dedicated and that are willing to learn and put forth that effort. He had mentioned about the services. Within TDCJ, there's 3 services. There's Jummah service, which is a primary service. And a primary service can be inmate-led, which means one of the brothers can lead the Jummah prayer. Then there's 2 secondary services for Muslims. One is Talim, and the other is Quranic studies / Islamic studies. In order to have that, it can happen 3 ways. If I'm there as a chaplain, I can do it. But like I said, I got 19 units, and I'm getting ready to get another region, so I'm going to have between, I'll have over 40 units. So I can't be at everyone. But you can have a volunteer that comes, and they have what are called field ministers, and the field minister can do it, but the field minister only gets an hour, and the volunteer gets 2 hours. The same thing for Jummah. If you do Jummah service, and it's inmate-led, it's only for an hour. So I'm just trying to let you know what the struggle is going to be. And see, when you do this type of work, you have to want to do it. It ain't going to bring you no glory. I don't care what plan you got. I don't care what organization you got. It ain't going, it don't work in there. What is needed is support. And I'm thankful to Brother AJ's because we're working on some things. And one of the issues is getting Qurans in there, getting the Islam beliefs and teachings, getting some Salat books and stuff like that. And we have to treat it very delicate. But we started with 0 units, and what we are somewhere between 50 and 20 units now, of the 98 units that are within TDCJ, that we can do it, and they have the direct contact to him. And that's one of the things that I want you to consider if you want to work with it. I studied the other groups. I studied the Christians. I studied the Jews. This is the way I was educated. When you're doing something, you learn what's going on. The reason the other religious groups, especially the Christians, has more than we do is because, number 1, they have more organization. Number 2, they give more. They give more than the Muslims give. I'm serious. They give more. And they have it set up that if I'm part of one of their programs and I can't make it, they got somebody else to go. So we're going to have to look at this situation real seriously. We're going to have to make some efforts to see what we want to do. Because it's a very situation. I told some brothers today this. I said, man, I'm not, I want to know who the volunteers are that come, because if a volunteer goes and do something bad, they call me, Muslim volunteer. If it's a new volunteer, Muslim volunteer, they call me. So what do the Muslims do? They try to go on their own. Go ahead. You got your own program, but it's going to come back to me. But I tell the brothers this. I said, what I tell people is this. When we come in as a Muslim, whether you're a chaplain, whether you're a volunteer or whatever, we have to understand that we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with human beings. Some of these brothers have changed so much that it's a miracle. But they've been in the penitentiary. One guy, he's 40 years old. He just turned 40 years old. He's been in the penitentiary 25 years, since he was 15. Another guy is 41. He's been in the penitentiary 22 years. And he came when he was 19. And they both have life sentences. So we have to treat them as human beings, and then we have to realize who we're dealing with. And with the sisters, I remember I was doing a talim on one of the women's unit, and there was a little lady sitting in the back, and she was crying. She was just crying. She was just crying. And so I kept on talking. I said, okay, she's going to stop crying sooner or later. But she kept on crying. So I stopped, and I said, sister, I said, is it anything I can do for you? And you know, she told me, she said, yes. I said, what is it? She said, I didn't kill that baby. I said, wow, that's deep. So you got to have something here to deal with that, because it's a real situation. But I'm thankful to Allah because I have seen brothers who are Muslim come out of that situation, and they have came out of this situation, and they took on the struggle of re-entry. You got to readapt to this world, man. You've been gone 30 years, 25 years, 20 years. Some of y'all freak out when your daddy tell you you on restriction for the weekend. You think you missed everything. Just imagine being on restriction for 30 years, 25 years, or 20 years. But the men I know, like Imam Basil Abdullah, who had 99 years, he did 10 years. He came out, masjid was built from the ground in the Independent Heights area of Houston, Texas, old African-American city. His dream while he was incarcerated was to come back to his neighborhood and did it, and he did it. The brother you're going to hear from after me, his story. This is why we have to volunteer, because it is our obligation to give to one another. It is our obligation to give in zakat, and we have to truly understand it. It is not a game. It's serious. Be a lawyer. Be a doctor. Be what you want to be, but always give back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Takbir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am not a member of Salam Reentry. I was a correctional officer for the past 7.5 months at a local county jail. And so I have a completely different outlook on everything. I have our brother right here, he's seen it from the inside. These guys have seen it from the chaplaincy side, but I've seen it from a law enforcement perspective. And, brother made a very good point. He said that, it could be us in there, basically.
I want to interject real quick. This young man, mashallah, grew up in this masjid, and he was a very happy, positive person. And then he went and worked for 7 months, and I personally saw the change, right? I personally saw the change. And so, we have to take heed of what everyone is telling us, and we have to take it very, very seriously. Arib, mashallah, he's very close to me as well. And so I saw that change, and I had to actually ask him that, buddy, what happened? Right? And then he started telling me that, the work that he was doing was really impacting him. So I just wanted to interject.
Yeah, no, I've completely felt the change. There's a lot of change that happened from working there. I can only imagine living there. But what I really want to talk about is why you should care about a program like this being something that exists. A lot of times we as a Desi community, as an Arab community, we believe that, our people, we're not the ones getting incarcerated. We're not the ones that are ending up behind bars. Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of Desi people in jail. And it's funny for me because they see my last name on my shirt and they start speaking in Urdu. I'm just like, because as a correctional officer, you don't interact with inmates like that. You have to maintain a professional boundary, right? But, we have a lot of instances that we come across where we could end up in the same shoes that they're in right now, right? Let's say you're not a habitual smoker or a habitual drinker, right? I'm gonna actually start with a story. I had this one inmate one time. It was 2 p.m., I just got on shift, and I noticed he was trying to use the phone after court. And he's like, oh man, I can't get a hold of anybody. And I was like, okay, well, maybe you can try again later. Nothing I can do for you right now. And his cellmate comes up to me later. He's like, man, I feel really bad for my cellie. I'm like, why? He says, you know why he's here, right? The inmate was here for intoxicated manslaughter with a motor vehicle. And he told me he's trying to call his girl, but he doesn't realize that the individual he killed last night was his girl. And he didn't even know. It's gone, completely, can't remember anything. That was one of the most heartbreaking stories that I heard. But what's the point of me telling you guys this story, right? Let's say you make a wrong decision one night. Let's say you decide to go ahead and you drink one night. Let's say you decide to go ahead, smoke that joint, shoot up that heroin, whatever it may be. I don't know what you guys do in your free time. I'm nobody to judge either. But let's say you go ahead and do that, right? Now you get behind the wheel, and you don't know your right from your wrong. You're in an altered mind state, right? And you go ahead and you kill somebody. Now you're looking at time. You are looking at some serious time. You're gonna be back there. You're gonna be wishing that a program like Salam Reentry exists, because that is like these guys have been saying, that is the only form of da'wah, the only form of religious congregation that these guys get. I've walked into tanks where they only had one brother. He would lead salah, all five prayers, mashallah. He would lead the prayers in that tank. After he got moved to a different housing unit, I saw the prayers stopped. They just stopped praying altogether. Until another brother came. This brother actually came from this masjid. He came from this masjid, he was there, and then they started praying again. And you young kids, you know, there's not really too many young kids here, but even the young kids, we have, 17-year-olds sitting in county jail right now. Normally we had 5 at a time. These kids, they're young, they're gang banging. They picked up some serious charges. They got aggravated assaults. And these kids are not kids from, some bum part of Texas. No, these kids are from Sugarland. These kids are going to Elkins. I saw one kid from Travis. I went to Travis. I saw one of my classmates. I saw him, I was like, what you doing here? He has a hole in his chest and a hole in his foot. He got shot during a drug deal. So these things happen around us. They happen to people that we know, whether we realize it or not. The situation is real. You could be there. Somebody you love could be there. And it's not pretty. These guys talk about the deprivation of iman that these individuals have. I have Muslim brothers, they come up to me and they're asking me very simple questions about Islam. They're asking me simple questions about Quran. They have a desire to learn more. Now some of them, you can't judge everybody's intentions. But some of them, a lot of them come with true intentions. They're like, man, I want to change my life. I want to turn around. Sometimes it takes being in a difficult situation for you to realize that you need to turn your life around. But that's what we're here for. That is our responsibility, to give these individuals a way to turn their life around. Give these individuals a chance to, to find Islam, to repent for their sins, to clear their slate with Allah. So understand that this could happen to you, somebody you love. It could be going on around you. It's going to affect the next generation and all the generations to come. That's all I have. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm always gauging the audience as I come up and speak with people and share my experiences. My name is Joseph F. Clark. I'm the assistant imam for the Fifth Ward Islamic Center for Human Development. I'm also the founder of the Halal House Project, Halal Services, and Halal Ministries. And has anybody here ever been to prison? Has anybody ever been incarcerated, period? And I asked that question for a reason because, to give y'all a heads up, y'all don't have to worry about going into a cell and speaking to nobody. Because what would you be able to tell them? You can't transmit something that you don't have. So don't think that you have to go in and do a job that a person like me is supposed to be doing. That's why I find my happiness to overcome the shame and the guilt and the things that I've done to people in my past. We have to mend our ways, which means to change. Before going to Hajj, we have to apologize and make amends to everybody that we've hurt before going to Mount Arafat, to throw it on the mountain and hoping that Allah will forgive us for the things that we've done. Tazkiyah al-nafs, the purification of the self. So you might have the proper education to go in and share or try to help educate those who are suffering and going through their issues in prison or jail cells. You might get a chance to walk with a person like me who has been incarcerated to give a different perspective on what it is when I share my experience, strength, and hope with those people. So what you see now is a link chain. This is an attempt to bridge the gap between those who are good and those who are bad. I've been to prison 6 times. I've been caught up in riots where I was tear gassed, and I cried out to Allah, get me out of this. I'll never come back again. Less than 6 months to a year, I'm back in prison again. Not because I was a bad person, but because I was a mentally ill person, because I was a sick person. And people who are hip, slick, and cool don't admit to things like that. We walk around with our chest stuck out, trying to look better than what we are, and be who we are not. I played characters in my life for a long time. I played the character of a hustler. I played the characters of a pimp. I've played the characters of a gangster. And I lived my life these ways because I thought it was normal, not accepting the fact that it was all dysfunction. That it was all due to the fact that there was no father in the household, that my mom was out, and I was raised by MTV and whatever went on in the neighborhood. So we're dealing with something way much bigger than people to get in trouble and going to jail. But Allah is putting us in a position to become more grateful on where we are today. Just imagine, y'all said y'all ain't never been to jail. You should be extremely grateful that you haven't had the chance to go through some of the things that some people that look just like you are going through right now. I knew it became serious when I saw people that looked like you that came into the prison system that I had the opportunity to protect because people were waiting to prey on them. But just because I was Muslim, you know, the Muslims are protective to one another. I have many, many stories. But through the process, the individual must be willing to change himself. Allah tells us in the Quran, never will He change the condition of a people until they first change what is in their own souls. So imagine trying to reach somebody that don't know that they're sick. You know, so I was just grateful that the Masjid Bilal sent me literature when I was in prison. We didn't get volunteers, but we did seek literature. You know, it was a lot of information and things that I've learned that I'm just beginning to apply years later, decades later. I'm just learning to apply things that I've studied while I was in prison because it's a step-by-step process. I didn't become a bad person overnight. It took years and years. And if your children are in public schools, they're going to be influenced and affected by what's going on in life today. That's why people like you are showing up in prison. So that's why we started the Halal House, to intercept our brothers that go through the jail cell system, that deal with Brother Ahmed Gundos. And by the time they go through the prison system, dealing with people like Marvin Muhammad, then when they come off from prison, they can come to transitional living at Halal House, where we can properly educate them on the things they're going to have to face once they come home. I mean, coming home from prison, being in prison 6 times, having a desire to get married and go get a job, and somebody telling me no, I'm going to probably get mad and go back and do what I used to do. Or I know how to go get some money, you know, as opposed to having somebody next to me through the Muslim mentorship program that could say, hey man, I went through the same thing. I just toughed it up, and I kept on signing applications. You know, intervention is something that's real big today. Ain't a family that walks this planet does not have a person that's been incarcerated in that family for something. It don't have to be drugs, it don't have to be alcohol. It can be just like the man just said here, involuntary manslaughter. You know, Allah has a way to bring us to our senses and allow opposite parties to humble themselves and help each other out of the hole that they're in. You know, there are a lot of things that you can learn from people who are incarcerated that you might not be able to learn if you're not willing to establish a relationship with those people. There's also a hadith that says, the best of those who are in Jahiliyyah are the best of those of us in this religion. And I know I'm not reciting it right, but I forgot the other, excuse me for not remembering, where he say those with the worst future, those with the worst past can make the best future. So that's why I constantly recover loudly, which is share my experience with people like you, not only with you, but people that were just like me, to keep them from dying quietly. Because a lot of us are dying inside, and that's why we're driven to alcohol use and drug use and things like this, and playing characters, or wanting to be tough and joining gangs, because that's my story. You know, I just wanted to be loved. You know, I just wanted for people to accept me for who I was, but I didn't know how to receive that because of the dysfunction. But I do not regret anything that I've been through because it has brought me to where I am now. And I am a street scholar, if you would say. You know, I'm the person to come to or send somebody to when you don't know how to deal with them. You know, when Ahmed say, hey, we got a brother getting out of prison, can he come to your spot? I'm like, yeah, alhamdulillah. If brother Ajaz say, I need you to talk to a brother because I was the most model inmate in the jail and prison system. But as soon as I hit that back door, my thought process has changed. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Bedouin Arabs, don't say that you have faith, say you have submitted. Because when you submit to this deen, the first thing you got to do is clean yourself up. When you're born with a Quran in your hand, you have no experiences, right? All you have is the fact that, hey, my mom taking me to the masjid every day. You're doing everything that a Muslim's supposed to do, but you haven't stepped foot into the real world yet. You haven't stepped foot into the public system. So it's either way you're going to come across these trials and tribulations in your life. So having a relationship with somebody who has the experience is extremely important. And that's why we must bridge this gap. We must bridge the gap between the African American community and the immigrant community. We must bridge the gap because there's a lot of things to be learned. You all can learn a lot of things from us, we can learn a lot of things from you. And that's basically my experience. Only because I had a desire and a will to finally surrender myself wholeheartedly and do what the Quran and the Sunnah tells me to do. And when I did that, my life changed. And I never stopped trying to help the next person because if you don't use what Allah blessed you with, you're going to lose it. If He blessed you with the ability to help somebody else, if He provides you with wealth, I should spend at least a third of that wealth in trying to help the other person and teach them how to be wealthy. You know, so it's a real simple process, and it's a beautiful thing for salon re-entry. You know, the ISJ's community, African American community, whatever. It's not about who we are, it's about what we're willing to do for the sake of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, these were very powerful and moving, indications that we have to, really step our game up, really, and integrate, and not just, I think a lot of times when we hear these types of stories, our first move is, okay, what can I do, right? What can I do? And just like the brother just mentioned, Joseph, mashallah. He went with both languages. Alhamdulillah. Brother Joseph mentioned that not all of us are trained to do that. Not all of us are trained to engage, right? And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ, he also recognized, right? He took the best of the people in their positions and put them there, right? And everyone else had to follow. And it wasn't about age, right? It wasn't about age. Some of the most amazing commanders of the Muslim nation were some of the youngest people, right? We hear the name Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, right? And we think he was a very, very old man. And the reality of Ali ibn Abi Talib was that he grew up in the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a very real way, had adopted him, right? And so we have to understand that we all have our places, we all have our positions, but we must support the effort, right? We must support the effort. We have to support people like Imam Marvin, Imam Joseph, Brother Ahmed, Chaplain Ahmed, in the amazing work that they're doing. Brother Ejaz, he mentioned something, we were talking last night. He had a choice. He could have been named as a chaplain in the sheriff's department, but he chose Islamic coordinator. He chose that for himself because that is the place he saw himself doing the most important work, right? And then what did he do? He supported the people that could serve as the chaplains, right? He empowered them. He opened doors for them. And so this is the type of work that we have to start working on. And the reality, as Arib mentioned, many of our people, right? When I say I mean this community, I don't mean Brown or Desi or this, that, or the other, but people from our own community, people who we went to high school with, people who we are going to high school with and college with, etc., they are ending up in the prison system. And let me tell you how easy the prison system to get involved, like to go to jail. Let's put it that way. How easy it is to go to jail. You make one error. I know Arib mentioned examples that may not converge with our reality, but it could be as simple as not paying your bills. It could be as simple as not paying your bills, right? And you end up in the prison system. You went out with some friends and you look like someone, you could end up in jail, right? This is how simple it is. And I want to be very clear. Not everybody that is in jail or in the prison system is guilty. This is something that we have to really think about and take to heart. That many people who are walking free today is because of how much money they had in their pocket, because of the prosecutors, because of their attorneys, the quality of their attorneys, the ability to know their rights, right? A guilty person can be walking the street while a not guilty person can be imprisoned for life, incarcerated for life. And so we don't know who those people are, and we have no right to judge. We have no right to judge whether the person is guilty or not guilty. We have no right to judge. We have to be there for support. We have to be there to create and empower mechanisms of upward mobility. Wallahi, Brother Joseph, he was mentioning how when someone comes out of the prison system or the jail system, what are the next steps? I've had friends growing up, and I'm going to be very clear. I had a friend who was a hafiz of the Quran, came from a very well-known family, very, wealthy family, and he was in TDC multiple times, right? And the reality of the matter is that if we don't prevent and we don't circumvent, because one thing is, when someone comes out on probation, we don't realize this. It is very easy for that person to go right back to jail. And we can, sit on our high horses and say, oh, look at him, he just keeps going back to jail. But this person doesn't really have an option, because he has to, this person has to demonstrate that they can hold down a job. And the people offering jobs don't want them. And many times they get rejected. They have to show that they're in stable housing, which oftentimes they cannot demonstrate, and they're right back into where they came from. And so we have to become more aware of the situation and become empathetic with their condition, and we must step up like Brother Joseph has stepped up. Not physically, like we don't have to go and open up these houses, but we have a house, right? We have Halal House. That's not Brother Joseph's house. That's our house. That's not Brother Joseph's organization. That's our organization. And we have to support them in doing the amazing work that they are doing, right? And if we're doctors, we can support by giving medical aid. If we're engineers, we can support by giving them structural analyses, right? If we're attorneys, we can give legal advice, right? So there's so many things that we can do in our own lane by just supporting them, mashallah. And so we want to open up for Q&A if anybody has any questions, which I'm sure you do, inshallah. And then, inshallah, we'll wrap up the program. Yeah. Yes.
Just two quick points that I wanted to make. One about what Imam Ahmed was talking about regarding how easy it is to be in jail. We have a saying in law enforcement, and it goes, the only difference between us and them is that they got caught. That is literally our saying in law enforcement. Because there are some things that we do out in the street that if a cop pulls us over, well, I'm going to jail. If any of you have seen me drive, that I do some felony speed sometimes, but that's another story. But one thing I really want to talk about is what happens before coming to jail, what happens before coming to prison, right? Our goal as anything that you can do, whether you choose to support Salam reentry or not, whether you choose to go into these jails, go into these prisons or not, try to prevent your brothers and sisters from getting in this position in the first place. That is the biggest thing that you can do for anybody, is try to prevent them from getting there in the first place. Because it is, like we've said, it's so easy to get there. Keep your brothers and your sisters close. Keep an eye on the people around you. When you see them slipping, catch them. A lot of people, a lot of the homeless population, and Houston has a really big homeless population. These guys come to jail for fun. These guys come to jail when it's cold outside because they don't have a roof over their heads. How many individuals do we have in our own community who are not financially stable? What's to stop them from doing the same thing? What's to stop them from going into a life of incarceration just so that they have a stable house? So try to watch your brothers, try to keep an eye out for the people around you so that you can prevent them from ever ending up in a situation that could potentially destroy the rest of their lives.
Jazakallah khair. Any questions in the audience? Go ahead.
So basically, our program, our name is Salam Reentry, which is to prepare them to come out. But the reentry begins during incarceration. If we are not there on their side, if we don't have programs in place, like Marvin talked about, Joseph talked about, if we don't know them, if you don't understand them, so our push is to have programs within. In Harris County jails, we do. Muslim mentor program is basically that. So we know them, and we follow them when they go to prisons. Once they come out is the hardest part. We are about 20 years from there, in my mind. I've been holding Joseph back, and after 2 years he said, well, you know, because we don't have resources, but that's okay. We can't do everything. We have top 3 things we do. Right now, the action, the support you can do is to be a volunteer. That's why we're here. We don't need any other support. Only thing we need is your time. And just get a taste of what is it about. So 2 weeks from tomorrow, March 5th, downtown Houston in Harris County Jail, we have chaplains volunteer training, 9:30 to 12:30, just 3 hours. After that, we plan that. I do all that. The only thing I need is someone to sit there for 3 hours and just be entered as a volunteer. And we have brochures here, but you can email salamreentry@gmail.com, or we've got some volunteers out here somewhere. Elian put them somewhere here. But the way for you to do anything is you have to walk, take first step, and the first step is to volunteer. And I've had enough fights about that with organizations and people. You have committees, you have this, you have that, but that's all whatever. If you cannot give 3 hours a month, this ain't for you, because your mind is not set to do it. It ain't about a talk, it's about the walk. So I challenge you, not today, not tomorrow, maybe 6 months from now, if you can plan things so you have some time, take the brochure with you, or just remember salamreentry@gmail or muslimmentors.org, just to see. And then, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me with time. I don't need to work. So I am connected locally, statewide, and when I say Salam Reentry, because our strength is the young men that are on the team. My successor is in place. He had 3 people, 3 successors for him, and these are all professionals and young men like Imam here. So, but we need the people who are older, because man, the writing is on the wall. We ain't gonna be here too long. Once you reach 70, maybe you're gonna make 80. Maybe you won't. So find time, unless you're busy doing some other work, which is, like the Imam says, serving humanity. This may not be for everybody, but you got to try, you got to find out. And once you do taste it, then you can make a decision which way to go.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Joseph, you also want to mention some?
Assalamu alaikum. The Halal House Project is a group of men and women who have been incarcerated, who have been on drugs and alcohol and have overcome those, have been in gang activity. We are a group of tax-paying citizens today, and we're willing to mentor people who are getting out of prison, who are coming off drug and alcoholic addiction. We have life skills training. We have anger management classes. And we also have support groups. And we also have a 12-step program. You know, Allah tells us in the Quran that never will He change your condition until you change it, right? Where is that program in the Islamic system? There is no step-by-step manual on trying to tell a person to change his own situation. So that's where we come in at Halal House. We share our experiences and strengths and hope with those brothers and sisters who are getting out of prison, who don't have no hope, who don't have no esteem. And we share our experiences with them, we establish relationships with them, and we mentor them. Those who are willing to be mentored and those who are willing to make that change, because there is no compulsion. And when someone comes, when the students arrive, the teacher will appear. That's our saying. So when anyone is coming home, if they're sincere about change, you can send them to the Fifth Ward Islamic Center, and we will introduce ourselves to them. But if you come through the Halal House Project, you will be stipulated as a tenant to go to Big Book Study, which is on Monday nights from 7 to 8:30 p.m. We have CA, which is Cocaine Anonymous, which is 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays, and from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays, we have anger management. And I also have a program called a huddle, like a football huddle. And our saying is that you can't score a touchdown in the huddle. Just like we're in a huddle right now talking about how to go volunteer. Now we need to go out and run the play on March the 5th and take that 3-hour class and be willing to go volunteer. You may not have to come in and try to change nobody, but your presence is more important than anybody, especially someone who's depressed and going through it. But back to what you were saying about, we do have programs in place. It's all volunteer. It has nothing to do with money, and we don't expect nothing in return. We who are in this program are very grateful that Allah has allowed us to get over those things that we've done and to make us become more, feel better about ourselves. I know, me personally, I've done a lot of bad things, right? And Allah has allowed me to go through the process of helping other people get over some of the same situations and to bring me peace and to allow me to walk around as a productive member of society today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Let me tell you about the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. If you want to volunteer at a women's prison in TDCJ, you can go online to Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and then it tells you how to become a volunteer. And you can do that, and you can actually take the training online. They really did it during the pandemic, when the pandemic was up. So that's one way you can do it. And what they'll do is they'll look at your application, and they'll vet you, to see what's going on, and then they'll approve you. And the way I like to do it, not that it's so much I need to be in charge or anything like that. If it's in this region, I'd like for you to get in touch with me. That way I can help you. And for lack of a better way to saying anything, if they bother you, then they got to fight with me. I'm a real nice, humble person, you know. Yeah. But that's the way you can do it with TDCJ. Now, AJ's mentioned about the, did he say March the 5th?
Yeah.
At the Harris County Sheriff's Department, Harris County Jail, they're going to have a volunteer training there. So those are the two ways you can do that. Now, if they bring it back for TDCJ, they do have it where you can go in person and take the training also. But just go online, text Department of Criminal Justice, and you'll see it about how do you become a volunteer.
Any more questions? I got it. So the sister's asking, before they go to jail and before they go to prison, how can we help people? Are you talking about somebody maybe charged with something already or not charged? Okay. Okay. So the question is that you see somebody going down the wrong path, and you wanna facilitate them. You wanna prevent them from going into the jail or the prison system, and going down that road.
Let me say this, then I'll give it down there. But I want to tell you something. I grew up a Christian, and in the church, there was a song. It was an old spiritual song, and the title of the song was "Thank You, Mama, for Praying for Me." Thank you, Mama, for praying for me. And as you know, we pray 5 times a day. So one of the ways we start is that we always pray for those that need help and pray for those that haven't done anything wrong. We do dua for them. So that's the first way that you start. The next thing, and I'm very, very impressed by this particular masjid, is that you invite people, dawah, you invite them into the activities, and when they come into the activities, we begin to teach them ways to conduct themselves. See, one of the greatest things about our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was his disposition. And one of the biggest problems in America is that having a bad disposition, having a penitentiary disposition, all that is popular right now. So we have to take these things and do it. And then some more formal things that we can do. And Brother Yusuf, because of his history, he probably can bring some more information on that for you.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I think the best thing you can do is, like you said, if you know how news floats around the masajid sometimes of someone's child getting in trouble, doing something bad in class. I think it's easier to, after speaking with the parents or whatever, whoever may be going through it, to let them know that, hey, we really care. I care enough to present myself to let you know that you're going down a bad road, that bad things are going to happen. And kind of just let them know that, hey, I'm here for you if you need somebody to talk to, if you need someone to listen. I'm not going to judge you for what you want to talk about, but a lot of times we need to talk about what we're going through so we can release the pressure and take the power out of it. So that's one of the best things you can do, is let people know that you are available and know you are willing to support them before they wind up going into situations that can get worse. So that's it.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to this as well. I think what a lot of times is that when someone is going down the wrong road, the wrong path, we as a community, oftentimes we abandon them. And we begin to start, just talking within ourselves, oh, look at that person, oh, look at that person. Did you see what she was wearing? Did you see what he was doing? This, that, or the other. You may have noticed that I'm somebody who's very approachable, right? I go out of my way. I think everybody here probably has my number, my email address, and my home address, right? Alhamdulillah. And so the reason for that is because I've been through it myself. Right? I've been through it myself growing up here in Houston, Texas, born and raised. And, I memorized the Quran at a pretty young age. And so what happens all of a sudden is we begin to judge people next to perfection, right? So the moment they slip, the moment we abandon them. And, we need direction. People need direction. People need opportunity. People need opportunity to even make mistakes and recover. As Arib mentioned, we all do the wrong things, but only some of us get caught. But the reality is that every single one of us sins. Every single one of us sins. This is the reality of the matter. We just sin differently, right? Someone sin maybe that they lie. Another person sin maybe that they smoke cigarettes or they, smoke weed or whatever, right? But we all sin. And if we don't have a pathway back, then guess what? They have a pathway towards even more darkness, right? So we have to be able to have that opportunity that we pull people back in. But before they go too far, we must be a community that's worried about each other. We have to be a community that's worried about everyone's children, because they're our children, everybody's sisters, everybody's brothers. We're one big family, right? Especially because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that none of us will enter paradise until we begin to love one another, right? So I think that's very important as well. Brother Jaz, would you like to? Okay, any other questions? Okay, how many of us would like a second version of this, where we get more training and more communication and more discussion? Show of hands. At the masjid. But for those of you that need to go to Harris County, need to go to Harris County as well. That training is very important, right? We can't spoon feed everyone, right? So even the second version will not make you qualified to get into that system. I want to be very clear, right? But I do think that, having a second version of this, a more intimate setting of this, I think would be very, very important. And we'll set something up with Brother Ijaz, Imam Marvin, Brother Ahmed, and yeah, we'll find a sister and put her on the panel, inshallah. MashaAllah, inshallah. Sister Nimra, are you talking about sister? Okay, MashaAllah. Sister Nimra's husband is actually the programming coordinator here. Alhamdulillah. So if you need a backdoor entry, if I'm not picking up my phone for whatever reason. No, but I think inshallah that will be very beneficial. We'll actually do a sign-up sheet for that, so that we know who's interested and we have that secondary program, inshallah. But jazakumullah khair. Thank you everyone for coming. Yes, Sister Farah. I told you, she just sit up here.
Assalamu alaikum. So really, some of the brothers have said it's about being there. Harris County program, you will never be alone. You will go to training, you will be escorted inside, you will be escorted outside. When you start the first day and we schedule, we don't have to ask any, I do all the scheduling. When you'll be coming, when you're available, then we'll schedule. When you come in, there's going to be sister coordinator with you. You both walk in together. If it's on a Saturday, then I have to be there because chaplaincy is closed. So I'm there Saturday, just in case, and we've been there a long time. We've been there, since 2014. So, but we have never had an incident. So your volunteering duty is just to, this is what we do. You know exactly where the Muslims are before you go there. I will provide that list. So you go there and you tell the officer, you go inside. Now sisters go inside. We used to go inside for quite some time, but sisters are going now. And thanks to the Turkish community sisters, little bitty sisters, but they said, no, we're going to go inside. So you go inside, it's all professional, it's all planned. We don't go and look around inside. We go, and officers know what you're doing. You go in and ask for some person. If you're not ready to go, you would not go by yourself. There's going to be a coordinator. You can follow or you can stay out. You just tell the officer, who do you want out? And they will call them out. We will have somebody in the chapel. So we will have these people come to the chapel, and then there will be a chapel service. It takes an hour to round them up. But you know exactly where people are. And then there are people who are not listed as a Muslim, and they can also come as well. So you come in the chapel, we sit in a circle, they come in and sign in. Again, you're not alone. You would not be alone at least for 5 years. Ahmed can do it by himself, Brother Hamid, me, and a couple other people. Everybody else, we're with them. We go around the room and we just set the rules, very simple. It's very disciplined. Our services in county jail are the most disciplined services. We haven't had one incident in 7 years. Only one time there was 2 inmates fighting. Sister Nimra was there. Because when you go in, other inmates come in. This is the service, not in the chapel, inside, where pod means where they live. We go in, we sit in, others come and join and they want to know. But then officers are watching, so you get on the side. Only happened once, but with men, it has never happened. But that was because of the fight between the 2 inmates, not us. So we come out, after that we have Jummah, very simple, it's all planned, just Quran and Sunnah. Hadith of Prophet ﷺ and Quran, not a whole lot of discussion, not a whole lot of things, just basic things. And then after that, people just go back and we have all the record who's coming and things like that. So really, we have things that you can share basically with sisters. They want to learn how to pray. So you can take maybe 3 girls here who wants to pray, sisters, and you teach them how to pray, how to make ruku, how to make wudu. Somebody wants to memorize Surah Fatiha or just small, so you help them with that. Some basic things, but mostly it's about self-reflection, them talking. That's the most powerful thing, like Ahmad was saying. So, but you have to just experience it. My first female coordinator was a lady of my age. Oh, she was the sister of the past president, the past IG's president, Sister Surya Sayyid. And you know what? She said, brother, I want to see what you do with the brothers. I said, no, you don't. He said, no, I'm fine. So I took her, and of course she stayed outside. So I go in and I go inside, I bring guys out, they go up. She came to service, her and Sister Aisha Faruqi as well. She's a family therapist now. She's also our coordinator. She was our second coordinator. Sister Nimra is our third coordinator. So she watched everybody. She sat inside with the brothers, about 40 brothers. And alhamdulillah, it was a powerful experience for her, and sisters do their own thing. So this is something our program has basically evolved through just I kind of got it from what's called Thinking Matters in Michigan. There's a person who designed that. He's the man who helped me when I was in a total dark alley. Abe French. This man not only replied to my email, he called me. Then I went to some of the things, and so I have picked up from that. I have studied the criminal mind a little bit, through them, and then through the books that he asked for. And so it's just, and then we have the deen. Our deen is so simple. Quran and Sunnah is so simple. Whatever we teach our kids. If you can do weekly, awesome. But I say to start just once a month, so it doesn't stress your family. Our time is we get there 10:30 and we get out 1:30. So 2 o'clock you'll be in your car, and maybe you'll be home by 2:30. But that can change. If there is an emergency, if there is a need for you to cut down, we can work that. That's all up to us. I don't have to go to a chaplain or a manager or director to ask anything. We plan that among our own team. For sisters, it's basically Saturdays. We haven't had Jummah thing because our thing is to get the brothers to pray. For sisters, it's Saturday. Saturday is a bit more layback, a bit less stress. Even the officers as well as the because there's not a lot of other activities going on. So I have left some cards up there. So just drop me an email. I'll send you application. You send it back to me. I will submit it, and we'll be ready to go. And don't feel bashful that I started I'm 73. I started like 2014, going to county jail. So, you know, it's just all, just give it a shot, just to see what it is. And everybody that's gone through it. Now, sisters, Brother Imam, I found women to be really serious about life. The female sisters inside, they study this thing hard. And they're not playing game. Guys, most of them are con men. They just play games. But that's okay. They have their situations. We just allow them to go and get it out. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They haven't got the bottom needs filled yet. They can't belong. So, inshallah, assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair everyone for coming. We do have the brochures for Salam re-entry here, and I will have their contact information available as well if you need. Inshallah, we will be having another dose of this very soon, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.